I knew just what it had to be when I heard you say what you said to me. Everything, appetite for the night, check it. I knew just what it had to be when I heard you say what you said to me. Everything.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to a special bonus episode of the No Vacancy Podcast. You know, every once in a while, I like to go out there and speak to some of the folks that I feel are making a huge difference here in hospitality, whatever the area might be. And one area that people are really freaking out about again lately is that whole notion of bed bugs. They seem to be coming back. They seem to be getting more stronger than ever. And I got to tell you, more people that I know personally in my life are coming at me and telling me stories about, I had this happen in a hotel, I had that happen in a hotel. What am I going to do? So I connected with my friend Jeff Zimmerman, who's the National Sales Director at BedBug-HeatDoctor Prevsol. We're going to talk all about that today, how you can focus on this bed bug scourge that's happening out there all across America and, sadly, the world as well. Jeff, how are you doing today, man?
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Good. I like that you
I'm
already
doing
tipped the
great.
hat that we're recording this in the morning. I like people to believe that we're recording at, midnight every night. But yeah, it's in the morning. It's a bright sunny day outside. But I'm feeling a little sad because of this bed bug thing. Jeff, what's going on?
Well, Glenn, bed bugs have been around for centuries, and we didn't really talk about it in the 70s. We didn't really talk about it in the 60s. We didn't really talk about it in the 50s. You
Right.
and me kind of grew up in the same era. And, we kind of listened to our grandparents tuck us in at night and say, hey, don't let the bed bugs bite. And we laughed. It was kind of funny. Not so funny anymore.
No, because I got to tell you, Jeff, I never actually thought, I didn't, at that age when I was getting tucked in tonight and was told to don't let the bed bugs bite, I thought it was made up. I didn't even realize it was a real thing until I got into the hospitality industry. And I feel like, Jeff, in the last decade and a half, people are talking about it all of the time.
Glenn, it's funny because, I was in the pest control industry for, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for, 19 of those years, we had, issues with different bugs. And then, all of a sudden, bed bugs popped up. And I owned my own pest control back then. And that was, somebody called me and said, hey, we got this issue with this bug, blah, blah, blah. So we went up and looked at it and said, I've never seen this. We sprayed something and we went, kind of left. And 2 weeks later, they called me and said, hey, they're back. And, after about 4 or 5 times of doing this, this is 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
We finally realized that this was something we haven't dealt with before. So we kind of got a sample of it and took it down to MSU. And they diagnosed it as bed bugs. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, I didn't even know bed bugs were here.
Wow.
And so, it started the whole conversation in my head of what we need to do and how to treat it. And, it kind of made me freak out a little bit to kind of go do some research. And that's when I realized we had them in the country in the early, turn of the century and, the 20s and 30s and, some of that depression stuff. And you hear about it now, but, it was never talked about when we were kids.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And, the thing I think is important for people to recognize is if you have a bed bugs that are in your hotel, you come across them, it doesn't necessarily mean that the property itself is dirty or unclean or anything like that. It just might mean that somebody is transporting them with their belongings into the property and creating that infestation. I've seen a lot of, I've seen and heard a lot of these cases, especially at hotels servicing the international traveler, for example, that seems to be bringing it from foreign lands to your hotel room, right, Jeff?
Well, that was the thought in the beginning, and that's probably what happened.
Right.
We really can't trace all the steps back, but it's funny because when you say that bedbug word, you automatically people go to, oh man, that's dirty, that's nasty, or the people were nasty, or oh yeah, I get that at the budget hotel or whatever, the cheap, the no-name hotel or whatever it is. And it's such a myth. I've been in 5-star resorts.
Oh yeah.
Matter of fact, I was just down in Texas. I stayed at a place, and I won't mention it because it's a hitchhiking bug.
Right.
And, first room we checked into at this place, we found him. I went down to the front desk. The gentleman handled it very smooth. And he's like, I'll give you 5,000 bonus points for our rewards program. Can I switch your rooms? Can I upgrade you? I'm like, sure. And so he upgraded us to a king suite, and we went into the room, and everything was great. And when I met the manager, I said, your guy here helped you really well and took care of it. And she's offering more points. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm not the guy who's going to go out and blast you because I understand the problem. I understand where it's coming from. And after talking to her, there's a lot of concerns out there for the general managers and the front desk people because they're getting blasted with this every single day. And it's a problem that's not going away for sure.
No, it definitely isn't, and it seems to be intensifying a little bit, and it's really starting to, it's not really just a phenomenon of hotels, it's in hospitals, long-term living, jails, prisons, and apartments too. Jeff, I have a bed bug story for you. When I lived in an apartment in Brooklyn, we had multiple infestations of bed bugs, and you know what? My wife was trying to accuse me that I was bringing it home because I'm a guy that stays in hotels 80 to 100 nights every single year. But no, it was coming from the apartment upstairs and then leaking into our lives, making our lives extremely difficult, trying to get rid of that scourge. And I got to tell you, Jeff, it's starting to get more complex because from what I understand, just like we're seeing bacteria that are getting more resistant to strands of antibiotics, we're starting to see the same thing with bed bugs. They're really morphing into different strands of bed bugs now, aren't they?
There are several strands out there, 12 that we know of, 13 when you count the new tropical bed bug that's coming out.
Uh-oh.
And been in a couple of states now.
Right.
Which actually is probably the worst bed bug we could have here because it is a thicker exoskeleton that's on the exterior. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more invasive when it goes to areas where it's hiding. It can hide in book casings. It can hide in curtains and stuff like that, where a typical bed bug that we deal with every day, it's usually within 5 to 6 feet of the bed and behind the headboard or underneath the mattress or box spring and, easily found. These tropical bed bugs, you've got to start really looking behind pictures on walls opposite of the bed or even bookcases or, under nightstands and stuff like this. And,
right.
It's going to be a challenge here in the future because it definitely is not getting any better. It's getting worse. We have 3 maps that we've tracked over the last 5 years of doing what we do. And we see waves. When we start a new map, we see a wave go across the United States as the calls come in. And, if you came to my office and you looked at these maps, you would be 100% terrified of ever traveling again just because of how many states. We have 49 states of the 50. And then we also have Canada and Mexico that have our heaters. The only state we don't have them in is Rhode Island. And, Rhode Island's just a small state. There's not a lot of population as far as hotels. And we've never been up in that area to visit or talk to people. So, when you look at it and you see Hawaii, Alaska,
right.
Canada,
wow.
Mexico, you start looking at this problem and you're like, holy cow, this is a lot bigger than people even realize.
Yeah, sure.
And the epidemic across the East Coast is just unbelievable.
Wow. Okay, so I'm learning 2 things right now. 1, my next vacation I'm going to take in Providence, Rhode Island. But number 2, I'm really amazed by how I love New York City. I'm proud of New York City because that's where I'm from. But we don't just have one interesting strand of bed bugs. We have a second one, and even possibly a third different strand of bed bugs. That's pretty crazy. So traditional methodology on how to cure this thing that's happening to your hotel just doesn't necessarily work because as these creatures are adapting, they probably react differently to the chemicals that we used to use to try to solve this problem, right?
Well, what we know is probably half the strands out there are completely immune to pyrethrums. Mm-hmm. And that was typically what we used 10 years ago to treat them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of pest control companies, smaller companies mostly, still use a lot of pyrethrum. And so you're seeing the outbreaks in the apartments getting worse. And then, of course, those people leave to have their apartment treated. And where do they go? They got to go stay at a friend's house. So now they're infecting friends. Or they go to the local hotel and they stay there, and now they're infecting the local hotels. And so that's why you're seeing such an increase right now because, a lot of the treatments out there, about 5 years ago, was 95% of the pest control companies would use chemicals. And there's a huge switch now over into the heat industry. We've talked with the big companies, Orkins and stuff like that are, really looking at technology and the aspects of, how do we become cross-country on a one-platform basis of heat. Because heat's the only 100% effective way of doing it. And, Eric from Orkin, and I know Eric from Orkin, and him and I have been talking for about 2 years about how he can put a game plan together that includes heat all across the country. And, that's what companies are looking at now. So there's a big shift in the market to start going to heat. And we've really made a big increase in the sales in the last year and a half in the pest control industry. And I think once the pest control industry gets on and starts using a lot more heat, and that shift kind of goes from a 95 to 5% to maybe a 65, 50%, or 65, 45%, think we do that over again?
Right. Hold on one second. I'm gonna tee it up. Here we go. I'm gonna clap, and then you speak in 3, 2, 1.
When we go to a big shift from 65% to 45% of treatments being done by heat, 65, and chemical being 45, I think we'll see a shift in the numbers going down. But currently, right now, it's a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry for bed bugs. And,
wow.
And it's crazy what people are spending on it.
Yeah.
And you look at it and say, oh, we're spending $60 billion or $50 billion or $40 billion, whatever the number is, on pest control. We're really not spending that much on pest control. What the thing is people are throwing furniture out. You got to include that. You got to include in the hospitality industry lost revenue. You got to include the reputation management where you get a bad review and you lose 10 customers because of a bad review. So there's multiple ways to lose money from this bug.
Wow. So we're talking with Jeff Zimmerman, the National Sales Director of BedBug-HeatDoctor Prevsol. And what I find interesting is this whole new idea of how to treat it. We're getting away from chemicals. We're thinking about it in a more organic way. And what's interesting to me is the industry loved the idea of encasements, for example, for a while. And I liked that concept. But I'm seeing them shift their strategy now to be more about cleanliness than being a bed bug cure. And what you're telling me makes a lot of sense, because you're still finding these guys, you could wrap that bed as much as you want, but if it's in the headboard and you're not addressing the problem in the headboard, for example, or in other furniture within the room, then you're pretty much just ignoring the whole thing altogether.
Yeah, that's true, Clint. I mean, encasements have a place, and everybody should be doing, encasements for one of two reasons. One, it definitely makes the mattress look better and makes the guests feel better.
Yep.
But the other reason is it makes it for early detection very easy. If you have an encasement on that bed or box spring, you can tell a whole lot sooner than trying to search around the cracks and crevices of a mattress or lifting the box springs up and looking for them there. The fecal matter that comes off of the bed bugs when they're walking is a lot easier to spot when you have encasements. So encasements have a huge role in this whole bed bug epidemic.
Okay, so what we're talking about then is kind of like a 1-2 type of strategy. You should have the encasements in place. Guests like it. It creates that cleaner experience. It allows you to detect if you do have a problem whatsoever. But then how do you cure it? You're talking about heating the room. That sounds interesting to me. And I guess it makes sense because I've never seen a bed bug when I'm in the sauna. So tell me a little bit more about how that works.
Well, when you heat a room up, for example, a hotel room, and you heat that room to 140 degrees, you're getting your cracks and crevices and all your furniture.
Wow, 140 degrees? That's pretty hot.
140.
Wow.
Well, you think about that, Glenn. In New York City, in the middle of the summer, you get in your hot car that's been sitting out in the summertime. It's 165 to 170 degrees in there.
Really?
First thing you do is, of course, roll down your window, turn your AC on. And the same thing, when you go into that room and you're done heating it, you're going to turn the AC on and open the door and let that room cool off. But 140 degrees definitely is not as hot as you think it is. I mean, a sauna is 165, but it's a wet sauna.
Right.
And so this is a dry heat that we're talking about, going in without any moisture, so you're not affecting any of the FF&E. The TVs are all safe. There's a lot more concern about, FF&E and loss of furniture and stuff like that. And, once we explain it to people that you're doing the dry heat, it's 140, your car gets hotter than that, your radio's not melting, your seats aren't burning, then people are like, oh, okay. It's a big shift in mindset. But people think heat, and they think, oh, man, I can't do that. I might melt my stuff.
Right.
And really, it's not.
Okay, that makes sense, too. That makes sense to me a lot. So how does that work? Why does heating up the room to such an amazing amount actually get rid of the bed bug problem? I guess they just can't survive when it gets too hot?
So kind of like you and I, if we're out playing tennis all day in the hot sun and we don't drink any water and we don't kind of take any kind of precautions, we have heat stroke. Same thing with a bed bug. When they get heated up, their exoskeleton gets weak and it kills them. They basically sweat to death, or
Right.
their skin gets tight, and we just bake them. That's really what it is just baking them. When you find a bed bug that's been cooked in a room to 140 degrees, it's kind of like a flat pancake. It's really crispy. It's just hard, and it just kind of falls apart.
Wow.
And so they don't have any defense to heat. And just like we don't have any defense to heat except drink and find a cool spot. So,
Okay.
it's really important when you do heat the room up, Glenn, that we get everything up to temperature, because you don't want a cold spot, because then you'll have the problem back in a couple weeks.
Right. Well, first of all, the bed bug pancake thing sounds like the world's worst breakfast. So I'm going to avoid that when I go to hotels. But how long, Jeff, do you need to heat that room to make sure that this problem is taken care of? Because what I'm thinking about is, if I'm the hotel owner, I want to be able to solve this problem as quickly and easily and avoid having guests really know what's going on as it's occurring.
Well, that's a great question, Glenn, and it just depends on the room size, how much furniture's in there, and the type of construction you have. But typically, if you're using our heaters, the average time is going to be between 6 and 12 hours, which is, it sounds like a long time, but it really isn't when you think about doing chemical. And you have to have the room shut down for 24 hours for it to dry. And then if you read the labels of all chemical, you have to kind of go back in 2 weeks and treat it again. So now you've got a room that's out for 2 weeks. It should be out for 2 weeks. And, you're losing all that revenue. So, 6 to 12 hours really isn't a long time.
No, it really isn't a long time. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So you're really, once you hear about it, you show up with the team of people, take care of the problem. Next day, you can get that room back into service. And I think that sort of speed is really great, and also sends the right messaging to that in specific guest who may have alerted you to the problem. Hey, we're taking care of it. We're doing it the right way. We found a way to handle this problem, and it's going to be done quickly.
Yeah. And that's the big key, is if you catch it early enough in the morning, you can actually get that room back in service the same day. We've had hotels doing that all across the country. Their maintenance guys come in 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They had a complaint overnight. They put the heater in right away, and they're having it back in by night and renting that room out the same day. And so, talk about no loss of revenue. If you can get it done in the same day, let's say Super Bowl weekend, you've got a room that comes down in the morning. By that night, you're renting it and getting $600-700. A couple of times a year doing that with different events and stuff around your hotels, you're making money back really quickly.
Yeah. So how can hoteliers take an inspection of their property to see whether or not they actually have this problem? Because sometimes guests may just not report it. They just may go on their way. They may not even realize it, but you still may have the problem. You had mentioned it's easy to see with the encasements and stuff, but do you have to go and inspect every single room every single week? How does that normally work?
Well, the best defense, two things: a bright flashlight and a well-trained employee.
Mm-hmm.
And so, best thing you can do is get your employees trained on what they're looking for. So when your housekeepers go in and they're changing the sheets and they're looking for stuff like spots on the sheets or spots on the mattress, pillows, stuff like that, then you can alert the maintenance guys to have them come in and do a little further inspection. And it's best to do it, when you're changing the room over, or, having it go out, service for a deep clean and stuff like that. And really those two methods, having a bright flashlight and a well-trained employee, you could stop about 75 to 80% of infestations in hotels before it gets out of control, before the guest sees it.
Oh, and that's really important, because once the guest sees it, then you've got to try to make amends with that guest. So if you could cut out the problem before it becomes a problem, then you're going to be a real winner. So, Jeff, what's going to happen next? Are there any more, products coming up? Or is there this heater situation? Is it maturing? Is it changing? What's happening right now going out there in the world of pest controls and making that shift to this heat treatments?
Well, a couple of neat things that are out there, and we'll give kudos out to Zapbug and Amcam.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of companies are coming out with products that you can put mattresses in, like in an apartment, so you can save your mattresses and sofas and stuff like that, so you don't have to throw them out. If the company is coming in and you're in a high rise and you can't get all your furniture, treated with heat, so you can bring one of those, Sorry for the pause.
No, it's all right. Let's just start
Glenn.
that over. I'll clap and then you speak. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
When you deal with a Zap Bug or an Amcam product like that, and you have the chambers, you can go in an apartment, set that up, treat the furniture. Then they can come in with the pesticides. If you're in a high rise, you can't get all the electrical in there for heaters. But new technology for heaters and stuff, there's heaters coming out all the time, Glenn. And I caution people, really do your research before you buy it. Just don't buy, my product because we're on the show today. Really do your research and look at what the best product is for you and kind of research, because there's some products out there that, make claims that really can't be true when you do your investigations. But new technology, we've got some stuff coming out in the next year that's really going to change the marketplace, because you'll be able to, do your own self-reporting. And that, California's changing the law, Kentucky's changing their laws, where a lot of these hotel owners will now have to prove, if they're doing a heat treatment, that they're actually doing it the right way, holding it at the right temperature, holding it at the right time. And so there's new technology coming out there for that. And then we've got some new technology that we're testing, and it's going to make it a lot easier to go into those high rises and use a lot less electric. And I can't really go into all big details, Glenn, but it'd be shocking when it does come out. If we can get it to come out next year, it'll be fantastic for the marketplace.
Right. So I don't understand why you don't want to just tell me all of your secrents right now, so your competitors know what's going on. I mean, whatever. But I think what I'm taking away from this, Jeff, is you've got to partner with somebody like you, because you can't just turn on a space heater and hope your room gets hot enough in your hotel to kill the bed bugs, right?
That's a great thing, Glenn. A lot of guys think, I could get my own heaters from Home Depot and stuff. You got to realize, in America, UL listing is anything sold for commercial use or residential use is UL listed. If you see a UL listing sticker on your product, then basically what that means is it can only go to 90 degrees. Ooh. That's what UL listing is, residential heating.
Didn't know that.
Residential appliances. It's not a commercial appliance. When you see a UL listing on appliance, it's always because it's residential use, not a commercial use. When you go into the commercial uses, our temperature is hitting 140, not 90 degrees. So if you go to Home Depot and buy yourself a space heater and try to heat a room up, you'll never get it hot enough, because they've got built-in thermostats that'll shut off at 90.
Right.
Let's go the opposite route, Glenn. Let's take that thermostat out from a Home Depot heater.
Right.
Now you heat the room up, and all of a sudden you pop your sprinkler head because you're not using the right technology and the right product. The insurance company comes in and investigates, and now all of a sudden you're stuck holding a bill of $600,000 or $100,000 or $60,000, whatever that water cleanup is, because you didn't do what you were supposed to do and buy a commercial heater. It comes with precautions like sprinkler covers and stuff like that, and the training and the knowledge that comes behind it. So you got to be really careful. That commercial heater is much better than anything you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, or propane heaters that you can buy, those torpedo heaters.
Right.
We hear horror stories all the time. As soon as you pop that sprinkler head, insurance company comes in, you're paying that bill, because it's just not something that you want to do.
Okay, so what you're saying is, don't be clever. Don't get 2 space heaters thinking, hey, if one goes up to 90, I get 2. That's 180 degrees. I'm a winner. That's not going to happen, right? So you want
the horror stories we hear, Glenn, is when they get those space heaters and they take the thermostat out and they pop that sprinkler head and they go, like, we don't know why. Well, you can't control the heat. We have built-in thermostats to control the heat.
Right.
So that's the big thing with the commercials heaters out there.
Plus, the art of doing this. You're going to do it the right way, in a professional way, in a way that gets done in that 6 to 12 hour time period. No muss, no fuss, just get it done so you can re-rent that room. Jeff, before we wrap up, is there anything that you feel that I've missed today before we tell people how to find you?
The big thing is when you're ready to do your own treatments, just do your research, check it out, make sure you're using a professional product, a professional company that has years of experience. And, we carry our products direct. You can buy our products through Guest Supply, but, there's a reason why we're, behind AHOA, and we're behind Choice, and we're behind Best Western. A lot of these brands is because we have that experience. So, just, look for what you're doing before you go out and just buy anything.
What do you mean you're behind those organizations? You partnered with them in some way?
So we're approved vendors for Best Western and Choice.
Oh, great.
We've been part of AHOA. We've been part of AHOA for 5 years. longest bed bug company out there for HOA. Guest Supply partners with us. They carry our products. So, people want terms or want to buy easily and don't want to have to deal with, calling us and trying to figure it out. They can call Guest Supply. Red Lion has used us for many years in their programs. We just joined International Hospitality, Fairbridge, COA. There's a lot of brands and a lot of organizations that we've partnered with, and they've tested our products and trust our products.
Right. Now, remember, if you have an issue with bed bugs, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's going to happen. It's almost inevitable. I feel like, you just got to be straight with this issue. You got to focus on this issue. And as soon as you do that, contact someone like Jeff Zimmerman, the National Sales Director at BedBug-HeatDoctor Prevsol. Jeff, how can we find you?
Well, the easiest thing is call our 800 number. You can get an answer 24 hours a day. And that number is 844-364-3281. And once again, that's 844-364-3281. Or they can even, Glenn, call my cell. Most of the time I leave it on. 517-936-9415. Unless I'm at a show or flying, my phone's usually on, and I take calls most of the time, 24 hours a day. Unless I'm super tired, and I might turn it off at night. But usually we leave my cell phone on all the time.
Hey, I get it, because there's nothing better than helping somebody when they're really having a problem in the middle of the night and they need you to get those rooms back in service. And quite frankly, I see Jeff all the time on the road. I'm traveling to all the major events, and I feel like I see him absolutely everywhere. So find them online. Give them a call. Find him at the next national conference near you. Jeff, it's been great having you on today.
Glenn, it's been fantastic talking to you. Always a pleasure running into you at the shows. We look forward to our next event. I don't know if you're going any to the regionals with Choice, but we'll be at all three regionals in this month with Choice. So
great.
Look for us on the road.
Oh, good. Yeah, I like that you said that. Where else do you plan to be in the next few months as we're taping this in the beginning of October?
Well, the three Choice regionals we'll be at the Red Lion show. I just got notification next year for the Red Roof show in September. I know we'll be at a HOA in the spring. I plan on doing my place in the spring, and then we'll be at Choice in the spring also. We just got done the International Hospitality show, and was really good. And, so look for us at a show near you, and we do a lot of the regional shows with a HOA. So if you can't find us, call me.
Excellent. So thanks so much for being here, Jeff. And thanks to all of you for listening today. Listen, once again, I can't understate it at all. This is a problem that's inevitable. It is going to happen to you. Don't take it personally. Address the issue right away. Train your staff to make sure they could spot this problem immediately, and then give Jeff Zimmerman a call, the National Sales Director at the BedBug-HeatDoctor Prevsol. Thanks for listening, and we're going to be back soon with another great episode, all focused on the folks that are making a difference in hospitality to help you improve your business and make you more money. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.